It was a cold and rainy night in Lagos. Rain poured down from the dark clouds, beating hard on the roofs and streets. Thunder roared like a talking drum, and the sound of generators filled the air. Inside Lagos University Teaching Hospital, in the mortuary, a man named Chinedu Okofor sat alone. He was a mortuary attendant, the man who washed and prepared dead bodies. He had worked there for 11 years. He was used to the cold air, the smell of disinfectant, and the silence that filled the room. But this night, something felt strange. Earlier that evening, the police had brought in a new body. A young man, maybe 30 years old, who they said drowned in the Yewa River. They found him with rope marks on his wrist, as if someone had tied him up before he died. Chinedu cleaned the body carefully, as he always did, and said a small prayer. Lord, let his soul rest in peace. Then he placed the body inside chamber 4, one of the cold metal drawers. He pushed the drawer in and closed it. But as he turned to leave, he thought he saw one of the man's fingers move. He shook his head quickly. Oh. Now my eyes they deceive me, he whispered to himself. Dead body no fit move. But still, his heart was beating faster. Hours passed and the time was now 1 a.m. and the rain outside was heavier. Chinedu tried to stay awake, reading through the hospital logbook. Then he heard a soft tapping sound. He looked up and the sound came again. This time it was soft and clear. Scrape, tap, scrape. He slowly stood up whilst his heart started pounding. Now waiting be this again, he asked himself. He picked up his flashlight and walked toward the cold room. The air was freezing to the extent that he could even see his breath. And then, he saw it. The handle of chamber 4 was moving. Slowly. Like someone was trying to open it from inside. Jesus Christ! He shouted, dropping his torchlight. The flashlight rolled across the floor, shining on something behind him. A pair of bare feet, wet and dripping. Chinedu turned slowly. Standing there was the same young man who had drowned in the river. His skin was pale and his eyes looked empty and water ran down his face and chest. When he spoke, his voice was soft but clear. They didn't let me finish the prayer. Chinedu's legs started to shake. Which prayer? He asked whilst his voice was trembling. But the man didn't answer. He turned, walked to the door, and left. Each step left wet footprints on the floor, footprints that steamed in the cold air. Chinedu couldn't move. He stood frozen until the man disappeared into the rain. In the next morning, the police arrived and they opened chamber 4. It was empty. Chinedu tried to explain what he saw, but the policeman only laughed. So you did tell us say dead man walker come out, one officer said. But Chinedu noticed something the officers didn't see. It was a small wooden cross lying on the floor. He picked it up and saw a name carved at the back. Connor Adeyemi. That night, Chinedu couldn't sleep. He went back to the mortuary to check the CCTV camera. In the footage, he saw himself at the desk, drinking coffee. Then, at 1:17 a.m., the drawer of chamber 4 slid open on its own and the body sat up. The dead man looked straight at the camera and moved his lips. No sound came out, but Chinedu could read the words clearly. You wrote the wrong time. He quickly opened the mortuary record book. He had written arrival time, 8:45 p.m. But the message said it should have been 7:45 p.m. Then he remembered, the priest came every night at 8:30 to pray for the dead. If the man had died at 7:45, his name should have been included in that prayer. Because Chinedu wrote the wrong time, the man missed his final blessing. They didn't let me finish the prayer. The next day, Chinedu went to St. Dominic's Church in Yoba. He met Father Bamadiu, the priest. When Chinedu mentioned the name Connor Adeyemi, the priest sighed deeply and said, "Oh, yes. That fisherman from Ijibu," he said. "He died before I could give him confession. His wife came to see me last week." Chinedu held out the cross. "Father, what should I do?" The priest looked at him kindly. "Finish the prayer for him. Let his soul rest." That night, when Chinedu returned to the mortuary, The lights were dim and the air was still. He placed the small wooden cross on top of chamber 4 and lit a candle. He bowed his head and prayed softly. Colonel Adeyemi, may your soul rest in peace. May your prayer be complete. The candle flame shook and became calm. The cold room felt lighter and peaceful. Chinedu smiled weakly and turned to leave. But just as he reached the door, he heard a gentle whisper. "Thank you." He turned around quickly, but no one was there. Only the candlelight was dancing against the steel drawers. He exhaled, crossed himself, and walked out. Behind him, the candle flickered once, twice, and went out. Then, from inside chamber 4, came a soft dripping sound. Drip, drip, drip. And in the silence that followed, a quiet voice whispered one last thing. "You forgot to close the book."